Morning. In about 29 weeks in the womb of the mother, the baby has developed its sense functions, seeing, hearing, particularly touching. So much so that this sense, the brain has also developed a little bit. So much so that the baby in the womb starts to differentiate between itself and its environment in the womb. And it is said that around 30 weeks, the baby can hear sounds within and outside the womb. That means it can hear the sound of people talking outside. And that is when everything starts to get registered. So the crux of this particular fact is that a kind of sense of self, that I exist, and a kind of sense of differentiation, that there are others, there is others, people and others, non-people as well, the environment outside of me, seems to have taken some sprout. So that sense of self and that sense of differentiation develops, grows, and shapes in a certain way. And as the child gets born, and then it starts to observe itself and observe the world around it. This sense of self and the sense of others, self and others, starts to get shaped more and more. And the way it gets shaped is not uniform. It is based on two things. One, what it observes and what meaning does it make on its own. Two is what happens from outside, the cues, as I say. So the cues are happening, the baby is experiencing and then making its own meaning. So the meaning making function starts from the fetus itself, when you are in the womb, when I am in the womb, when I was in the womb. And it develops. And this develops into a strong sense of I exist, a strong sense of this is what I am, and this is what others are, and I am different from others in different ways. It could be very conscious, it could be very unconscious, but that sense develops and that becomes part of that baby, that person. Those are the early stages of identity formation, when you start to have an identity. And then the whole life is about how this identity shapes and how you work, how you make meaning, how you make choices, what experiences do you have, and how you infer, what you infer from those experiences, what you are conditioned by the environment, and how you get conditioned yourself, is all about developing this identity. But the fundamental thing is, in the core of this is the notion of self, that I exist, I am there, others are there, I am different from others. That sense of self is called in Sanskrit aham. And this goes on, and I say, this is me. So from I exist, the notion of me develops. This is me. Okay. This is me. This is what I am. There is a difference between I am with some other qualifier. Let's say I am a man, I am a boy, I am a student. Okay. So a qualified statement of I saying I am X is the way we understand that is me. That's the identity. But fundamental to that is that I exist. Sense of I exist. That's if there is no sense of I, you can't say I am so and so. So the sense of I exists all the time. So from this particular narration, there are several things that can take shape in different direction. Psychology comes in, identity process comes in, what kind of identities you process, and so on and so forth. Okay. Philosophy also comes in. Philosophy says, what is I? Okay. And Vedanta philosophy, particularly the Advaita Vedanta philosophy. Advaita means non duality. Non duality means there is no difference. So the whole notion of I and others has to go. Others could be people, others could be building, others could be plants, animals, organizations, institutions, countries, nations, race, gender, even solar systems, planets, galaxies, cosmos, vacuum, energy, all that. I am there, rest is all others. The others can be very many things. So, this I is the primary reason for differentiation. So, in the Advaita philosophy, which talks about non duality, the core is to overcome this differentiation. It's difficult because in the lived reality, it is very clear that you and I are different. I and you are different. I and this box is different. I and this bed is different, and so on and so forth. So, the technique or the method to at least dilate, negate the strength of this differentiation to move towards non duality are saying spend more time with that I, that sense of I, that I exist, not as what, but I exist primarily. If you spend more time on the others, the different others, that will only increase the differentiation. But if you look at I exist. Okay. And we're rooted in that I, then you have the chance of experiencing non duality. So, here is a kind of statements I will say for you to, for all of us, not you, it's for me only. Actually, this recording is for me, not for others, but then I'm also sharing it with you. So, it will be like a narrative, a poetry kind of stuff, but not exactly poetry. Okay. kind of stuff. What I call as with the title me time. These days, that's the phrase that goes on, me time. I was young, I was in the womb, I existed. I came out of the womb into the earth, I existed. I started turning on my back, lifting my neck, I existed. I started swimming on on the ground, crawling on the ground, I existed. I started sitting, I existed. I started standing, I existed. I started walking, I existed. I made noise and wept, I existed. I started to learn aksharas and swaras, I existed. I started to speak, I existed. Several things about me changed, and all the time that the sense of self existed without any change. I grew up to be a boy or a girl, I existed. I went to school as a student, I existed. I played with my playmates, I existed. I fought with my friends, I existed. I laughed with my friends, I existed. I got reprimanded by my parents and teachers, I existed. I got appreciated by my parents and teachers, I existed. Several things happened around me, but I existed and the sense of self remained the same. Things changed from womb to this stage around me and about me, but that sense of I existed as if there is no change at all. In fact, there is no change at all. I grew up and went to school and had my own gang. I was walking around and played and had developed my circle of friends. I existed. I went to school, I went to college, I existed. I went to job, I existed. I was happy, I was existed. I was frustrated, I existed. I was sad, I was existed. I was expressing myself, I existed. I sat alone, forlorn, I existed. Everything about me changed, everything around me changed, but I existed. The sense of I was the same that was there when I was a baby. Time passed by and I went to job, I worked. I started as an intern, I existed. I became a full-fledged individual contributor, I existed. I became a manager, I existed. I grew up in ranks, I existed. Several things changed about my career, my assets, my liabilities, I existed. I got married, I existed. I got children, I existed. I found joy in this, I existed. I found frustration in this, I existed. Now, in the meantime, when in the me time, when I sit and reflect on this, I existed in the past, I exist now, and I will exist in the future. Several things changed about me, several things changed around me, several emotions changed around and about me. But I, the sense of I, existed. That I has remained constant all through, as if it didn't have qualities. There's no quality for that I, that sense of I, aham. The quality was given because I attached something with the others. I am a boy. When I say I am a boy, I differentiated myself from a girl. When I say I am a student, I differentiated others from who are no longer students. I differentiated myself from teachers. So the qualifier of the I came from what caused the differentiation outside and not on I itself. I have remained the same. The sense of I, when I say sense of I, the qualifiers changed. I was young, I was old, I was joyful, I was happy, I was sorrow, I was sad, All that changed. The qualifiers changed, but the noun, the I, remained same. The unqualified I remained the same. The unqualified I gave me a sense of existence, and therefore I kept saying, I exist. When I say I exist as, then I qualify myself with something with relation to this external world. But when I don't relate to the external world, I exist as I. And when I spend time with myself, when as I exist as I, that is me time, philosophically. And that me time, I may exist with my thoughts, I may exist with my emotions. The thoughts and emotions are others now. Thought will change. Thought could be qualified as good and bad, but thoughts are thoughts. Emotions are emotions. Emotions could be qualified as the navarasas, but emotions are emotions. Okay. Thoughts and emotions changed, but I remained the same. The unqualified I remained the same. Okay. I grew old. I don't grow old. My body grew old. The unqualified I remains the same, unchanged. The qualifying attributes changed. Young, old, all that. The change is about the qualifying attributes of I, but not the unqualified I. Vedanta philosophy says that the unqualified I is Atma. So if you are able to start the day in your me time or any time, mostly starting time of the day or end of the day or sometime in between, you want to have your me time when you want to say, all of you get out, I want to spend myself. So in that me time, if you can engage yourself with that unqualified I, you can only do that in silence. It is only in the unqualified, it's only in silence that you can engage with this unqualified I. You engage with yourself. That's your me time. That is the starting practice of Atma Nishta. Don't even engage with your breath. Don't even engage with your thoughts. Don't even engage with your emotions. Let them flow, leave them aside. The best way to start the me time is to remind yourself saying, I existed in the past, I am existing now, I will exist in future. I existed as a boy, I am existing as a man, I will exist as an old man for. So if you are able to see all the environments, all the situations in which you existed unqualified, and recognize that the qualification because that I associated itself with something which is an attribute of the others. Okay. I have nothing to do with that. This unqualified I doesn't have nothing to do with that. Okay. That is a practice in non-attachment. So start with the practice in non-attachment, very clearly and consciously saying that the unqualified I is me as I exist. When I associate myself with others and qualify it, then I become I exist as. I am. I exist as. Okay. So leave the exist as. That will keep changing. That has kept changing. I mean, any of you who are in middle age, children may not be able to recognize that. But anybody who is 20, 25, 30 onwards will say, I existed as that. I'm existing as something else, I will exist as something else, but ultimately I existed. That is the practice of me time from Advaita perspective. Okay. And that unqualified I keep saying unqualified I is something that you need to grasp, you need to apprehend. Because if there is no qualification, it looks blank. But then you know I exist. In the lexicon or the vocabulary of Advaita philosophy, it's called Nirguna Brahman. Nirguna means unqualified. That's one definition. The technical definition is later. Atma is Nirguna, unqualified. And that unqualified I that I have is the same unqualified I that every one of us has. If you strip all those as something out, and that unqualified I in you and me and others, in animals, in anything that is conscious, sentient, anything that is conscious and sentient, that unqualified I is the same. There is no duality. So Atma, at the level of Atma, the unqualified I, there is no duality. So this is Atma Vidya from the Advaitic school or even Dvaitic school. Advaitic school goes further, that Atma is same as Brahman and Brahman is everywhere. Okay. In Visishta Advaita, they'll say this unqualified I that is in me and unqualified I that is in you is the same, at least at that level. Rest might be different. So in our me time, if I become conscious of that unqualified I, that I existed, I exist, and I will continue to exist. That is Atma. That is Atma Nishta. And if you add a next dimension in which you say that when the body is gone, which body? This body. The moment I have mastered the art of saying that the body is part of others and not me, I am that unqualified I. That means I existed as a baby, I existed as a youngster, I existed as an old man, you are existing as a young person probably, and I will exist as a further older man. I will also die, meaning the body will go, but I will exist. The unqualified I will exist. So Atma exists forever. If you take it this side, I existed before even I was born in the womb of my mother. So I existed before I was born, I exist during this birth, I exist, will exist later also. So the Atma is eternal. The sense of unqualified I is eternal. So this occurred to me this morning, that I will record this as a very simple exercise for me time from a philosophical perspective. The moment we master our ability to stay rooted in that unqualified I, our ability to deal with others, our ability to be unbiased, unprejudiced with others will increase. At the same time, you are prepared for eternally sitting in an unqualified self, which is called moksha. Thank you very much. Hope you will find it useful. Namaste.